Hello everyone, this is CJNovo992 and today we're back with another brand new video. Today's video, I am sitting here absolutely buzzing because the wait is finally over. No longer do me and thee have to put ourselves through the German and English football nonsense. Nah. Push that to one side because the real football's back. So let's talk about it. Now, before we actually go ahead and do that, bit of a cheap plug, but just in case you are new around here and you haven't hit that subscribe button, or even if you're a regular viewer who hasn't hit the subscribe button, like 56% of a regular audience, if you don't mind hitting it, it's free, doesn't cost you a penny, and it just helps us on our way towards 55k. But to business then, shall we? And business is the perfect word to use for what's to come in the next 24 hours, because we've had little tasters throughout the pre-season, right? We had the technical tests of Lyon and Nice, then we had the more physical test versus Motherwell and Coventry, but now it's time to do it for real. And what better way to test ourselves to see if we're ready for the upcoming season than up at Pittodrie versus Aberdeen. And speaking of Aberdeen, that leads us perfectly into the oppositional preview. And listen, we know what Aberdeen are all about, right? Especially against Rangers. They like to keep it compact, they play long ball football, and they play for set pieces. And that's usually the way it's always been under Aberdeen. Big target man, big boot, physical tests. We all know this. However, there has been a couple of little developments from Aberdeen Football Club which may, just may, force them to tweak their setup. The first development is of course the biggest news coming out from Aberdeen Football Club, and that is that big Sam Cosgrove is ruled out not only for tomorrow's game but for the next 4 months, which is absolutely massive for them because he netted them 23 goals last season. Now, as big of a loss as Sam Cosgrove is for Aberdeen, normally they've got someone in the wings there just to keep their own play style and play to their strengths by the name a Big Curtis Main. And very like Sam Cosgrove, he's cut from the same cloth, big, powerful, dirty. He's not as lethal as Sam Cosgrove, but he's still a handful and he fits right in at Aberdeen. However, he has also been ruled out the game tomorrow. Now, I know that's going to be a surprise to some people because all week long you've read about Rangers' striker crisis going into this game versus Aberdeen, but nah. Aberdeen, they're worse off. Which leaves Aberdeen in a very, very interesting place going into this game versus Rangers, because their striker who's been doing bits for them during pre-season is the young man Bruce Anderson, who's netted 3 times in his last 4 games for Aberdeen. Now, as I just said there, he's got a pretty good goal to game ratio so far, so it's not really doing red flags in that way, like not having a striker scoring at all. However, where it is very, very different and very interesting for Aberdeen is he doesn't slot seamlessly into that Aberdeen setup like a Curtis Main would if Sam Cosgrove is out. Play at their strengths going that way. They can't do that with Anderson because Anderson isn't cut from the same cloth. He is 5'8" and requires much more of a build up. He's good with the ball at his feet. He's not going to live and breathe of long punted balls up against 2 centre halves. That's not his game at all. Which I felt was worth mentioning to you watching today's video, because we've all got this perception how Aberdeen's going to play them more. But if it's the young lad leading the line, that may just indicate that Aberdeen are going to be changing it up throughout this game and just may get the ball down and actually play football. I know. Crazy. But lastly, regarding the old Aberdeen team news, we got an update on Shay Logan, the right back for Aberdeen, who's currently listed as touch and go for the game tomorrow. And Michael Devlin, the big centre half, is expected to miss out of the game tomorrow. But as this is Derek McInnes, it wouldn't surprise me if both of them's in the starting 11 by 12 o'clock. And the truth, that's sort of it for the Aberdeen perspective. As this is the first game of the season, there's not much data to break down to natural dive into and be able to show how they're setting up, who's performing well. All we can really go on is pre-season and a couple of Derek McInnes interviews. But I'll spare you from the latter then, shall we, and sum up pre-season very, very briefly. And the word that comes to mind after checking and reading through everything they've done so far, I'd say it's mixed. They've definitely tried to tweak and change just a couple of things. I think Bryson is playing very, very well for Aberdeen, and he'll come into this game full of confidence and a point to prove. But I think the pre-season is perfectly summed up by the last game versus Hibs. It finished 1-1. But as I've said many, many times on this channel, it doesn't matter how good, how bad or how ugly Aberdeen are playing. When Rangers comes into town, every single one of them get that extra 25%. I'm pretty sure that'll be the exact same going into this game. They'll be dying to spoil the party tomorrow because everyone's talking Rangers up. Everyone's looking at Aberdeen's injuries, writing them off already. And you just know, with the history between the two clubs, they'll get no more satisfaction all season than spoiling the start for us. But with all that being said, now it's time to talk about what matters most to me and to thee. And that's, of course, Rangers Football Club. And kind of picking up where I left off the oppositional preview talking about Aberdeen's pre-season, I think it's fair to say we are the exact opposite. We have been playing some brilliant stuff and absolutely flying. But the challenge now is to bring all that and bring that confidence into where it matters, ladies and gentlemen. And that is league football, and that starts tomorrow versus Aberdeen. Because we've sat here right on this channel and praised this Rangers team for just the confidence, the swagger and the freedom that they are playing under over pre-season. Well, take it straight in here. There's no point in changing and losing that swagger. And something we've spoke a hell of a lot of is Kent and Hadji's complete and utter freedom. The ability to interchange, to drop back, to go forward, it well is clear to see. They now have that right and role. They have that responsibility to be the X factors for Rangers, and hell, they should be. They are very, very talented players, but that role we've seen over the last couple of weeks is drastically different to what they had last season, which in my opinion stifled them completely, especially Hadji, who was just butchered out on that right hand side. But as we've seen now, that's all gone. He's got that freedom to come inside, and hell, he's had more chances on the left hand side inside the box than he has on the right, and that right there is very, very promising. However, Kent, Hadji and even Joe Rebo, who's been excellent going forward during pre-season, aren't really the worry going into this game. Everyone under Doug is talking about who's going to be starting up top for Rangers tomorrow. And that right there perfectly transitions me into the Rangers press conference breakdown, where the biggest talking point, surprise, surprise, was Alfredo. Now, the gaffer during the press conference went ahead and confirmed that Alfredo Morelos will be travelling up to Aberdeen. However, he went on to say he wouldn't be making any decisions just yet regarding the starting 11 and all that. They still got today's session, and we'll all find out an hour before the game. Now, we did go on to talk about the valuations not being met. There's no pressure to sell and all that malarkey, but that's not what a Rangers versus Aberdeen press conference should be about, in my personal opinion. You should ask, if he is coming, then go from there. And all we do know is he is coming, ladies and gentlemen, and that's massive, especially considering during the same press conference, Jermaine Defoe was officially ruled out by Steven Gerrard. Which leaves us in the absolute horrific position of going into the season and opener with only one fully fit striker. And because of that right there, despite Gerrard not confirming or denying that Morelos would start, I think the fact that he is the only fully fit striker at the club tells us we all know who's starting up top for Rangers tomorrow. It has to be Morelos, surely. Scenes when Greg Stewart starts and has an absolute world day versus his former team. But back on track then, regarding the actual press conference breakdown, there was a lot of stuff you're fully expecting to get from a season opener that there's no point in me repeating. I'll link it in the description if you watch it, but 90% of it, apart from Heart and Hands question, it was actually about the game of football, was all about other stuff and stuff we've already talked about and heard about. So let's not waste time repeating how much of effect the fans will have and all that stuff. Let's skip to the most important little nugget of information, which I think will please a hell of a lot of people that's still watching today's video. And that little delicious nugget of information was that Gerrard is confirming that they are actively trying to improve the squad, and it wouldn't be a surprise if a new player was announced in the coming days. And with that little tease right there, let's wrap up the press conference recap and get to some team news then, shall we? Now, the first one is the one we all know. Katic is ruled out till at least January. However, Steven Gerrard confirmed not only is Jermaine Defoe going to be missing his game, but so is Stephen Davis, as he has an Achilles injury. However, don't panic just yet, he should be back for not only the next league game, but also the European game versus Leverkusen. But as it is a fresh start, now it's time to get to the old predictions section of today's video. And this is always fun and it's always interactive, so make sure you be getting your thoughts and predictions for the first game of the season right down there in the comment section below. And while you guys are hopefully going ahead and doing that, I will give you mine very, very briefly. Despite Aberdeen having to change so much and potentially changing even more regarding the way they build up and they set up, in this game. I'm still expecting a physical, frustrating battle, but I do think Rangers will get the breakthrough, and very similar to what they've done versus Motherwell, when they do get that breakthrough, they'll turn the screw, and I'm actually going to go big here for the first time ever versus Aberdeen. I normally didn't do this, but I'm going for it, alright? I'm going for it. Rangers 3, Aberdeen 0. My goal scorers, Alfredo Morelos. Of course it is. It's written in the stars that the wee man scores, but also I'm going to go with Hagi and Aribo. And now that me and thee have had their say, now I cannot wait for this. It's been far too long, but for an actual official match, it's time to jump over to Twitter and hear from the people, and the nation never ever, he's honestly never ever let me down. There's been 1,962 votes and there's still 30 minutes remaining. Thank you so much for getting involved. 4% votes for Aberdeen, 4% votes for the draw, but the far and away winner with 91% of the vote is our Rangers away win. And the first one actually comes in from Ewan McKenzie, and he writes in Rangers 3-0 win. Aribo and a cheeky Morelos double. So we're slightly different on the goal scorers, but the score is the same, son. Callum Kelly's the next one in, and he writes in a cheeky channel favourite 2-1 to Rangers. Morelos red card, and it's going to be tough against them. Ah well. We're back down the earth there. We're back down. Mark Racing 2-0. Easy for Rangers. Hagi and Morelos with the goals. Bob Steele Racing solid 2-0 CJ. Rangers win is what I'm thinking. Expect Aberdeen to be very defensive since they're missing their strikers, but I reckon we'll break them down at least a couple of times throughout the match. Andrew Wilson writes in Rangers 3-1 with Morelos dirty double and a Ken goal. Peter Ramsey also writes in 3-1 to Rangers with Morelos, Hagi and Jack being the goal scorers. Oh, yeah, I'd love to see that. Cammy McFarlane writes in 2-1 to use Hagi and Barisic with the goal. Good to see BB getting some love. Douglas writes in 2-1 to Rangers Defoe to open the scoring, and Hagi with the winner with McGinn scoring for Aberdeen. And the last two or three watch read out in tonight's video. Scroll nearer to the bottom to give everyone a chance. Mark Graham writes in the 4% who voted for Aberdeen. Fight me. You're getting followed, mate. Well done. Mark Taylor is a 3-1 to Rangers. Hagi first goal. What do you think, CJ? I've just said Mark. Kai Bell writes in 3-0 to Rangers. And the last one we'll read out comes from... Stop it right here. And it comes from Josh Gibson. And he writes in, gonna go for 3-0 CJ. Think we will be on top the whole game. Hope Morelos starts. Think it will be Morelos, Kent and Connor Goldson on the score sheet. And with that being said, that's us done and dusted with today's video. You've heard from the people. You've heard from myself. If you haven't done so already, you know what to do by now. And as always, I've been CJ Over 92. Thank you so much for watching. And bye.